Whether you're looking for answers to specific life questions or seeking to become the best version of you possible, welcome to the Mental Breakdown and Psychreg podcast, where we offer insight, information, and strategies based upon research and years of practice as clinical psychologists. So sit back, have a listen, and get connected with our hosts, Dr. Berney and Dr. Richard Marshall. Welcome back. Today we're going to move from theory to practice.
Right.
All right, so today we're going to talk about how to use emotions to help manage some of our mental health, to talk about some of the way that we feel about things and think about things. But because emotions can so often contribute to mental health issues, it's important that we think about the use of emotions or the involvement of emotions in treatment.
In fact, either he or Scott said mental health is emotional health.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And whether it's
yeah, it was Scott, the one that we talked about yesterday.
Yeah. That mental health is really about emotional health.
Right.
This begins with emotion, and this is from our friend.
Right. We've talked about articles from him before.
But we need to know how to pronounce his name.
I think it's Govender Gill.
We're going to have to ask.
We will have to ask.
Yeah.
And this is an article called Emotional Intelligence and Mental Health.
And we've all heard about emotional intelligence.
Right.
There was a book written years ago.
Right.
Dan something, Groff or something, about emotional intelligence.
Right.
Okay. And it's, people were saying, well, that's the most important kind of intelligence.
Right.
It's not your ability to do this, it's your emotional intelligence. And what I think what both of us like about this article is that we know that emotions play an important role in mental health.
Right.
And when he talks about emotional intelligence, he's talking about the ability to manage the emotions. We know that emotions are produced. We know that we all experience emotions. We all know we have feelings. We would discuss that throughout the week. And he's saying that now we have to learn how to regulate,
right?
How to control, not control, I don't like that word when we talk about emotions, how to regulate, how to manage our emotions.
Right. Because we're going to experience emotions. We talk about this when we think about, and we're doing anger management groups and things like that. A lot of people, the first session of anger management groups, you say, what are we here to do? Oh, we're here to stop being angry. Well, no, that is never going to happen.
Right.
You're never going to not be angry.
That's right. That's what we tell kids.
Right.
Of course you're angry.
Right.
And it's perfectly okay to be angry.
Right.
It's perfectly normal to be angry.
Right. It's the regulation of that anger, the regulation of those emotions that we really have to think about. And that's where emotional intelligence comes in.
That's right. That's right. And he presents 6 ways, 6 things that we need to manage better. The first one is
number 1,
self-awareness.
Self-awareness, right. And so we have to understand we have to understand ourselves.
That's right.
And it's a simple thing to say,
right?
But it's a very different thing to practice.
That's
to
right.
Implement.
What are the emotions that I typically experience?
Right.
Do I experience anger? Do I experience sadness? What do I experience? I need to know what mine are. Which ones do I experience? And especially which ones are causing me problems.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because those are the ones I have to work on.
Right. Yep.
So first is self-awareness.
Self-awareness. The second one is what we were just talking about. Emotional regulation.
That's right.
Yeah, we have to be able to, once we recognize what we're experiencing, so through the self-awareness, we have to be able to take that emotion and regulate it, manage it, respond to it appropriately, or make appropriate decisions about how to behave after experiencing that emotion.
That's right, because any emotion can get out of control.
Right.
Any emotion can be unleashed.
Right.
Fear, fear flying.
Right.
It has now taken control.
Right.
Now you're limited as to what you can do because fear has overcome everything else. Anger.
Right.
I'm pretty quick to anger. I'm starting, I guess after 112 years, I'm starting to get it under control. But did you see what he just did? And it was an emotion that, and I don't know why, it's just, but I needed to learn that about myself, especially with children, having children, is that you can't unleash this fury on other people. And so you have to learn how to regulate that stuff.
Right.
If it's causing you a problem, whether it's fear or anxiety. Right. We see people all the time who are they're afraid to fly, they're afraid to do this, they have test anxiety or whatever. You have to be able to regulate your emotions.
Right. And it starts with the self-awareness. You have to understand yourself.
You have to know what they are, which ones are causing you trouble, and then how to, and it takes practice.
Right.
Okay, you have to work at it.
Right. And part of that working at it is number 3, which is mindfulness.
Right.
And mindfulness is understanding. The more I talk about mindfulness, the more that I recognize that it's a more complicated thing than we typically think of. Mindfulness, okay, just being mindful of what's going on around you. Well, it's a little bit deeper than that.
Right.
Yeah. So being mindful is just being aware and cognizant and in the present. You know, being where you are now.
Right. And the part of mindfulness that I like that he brings up in this little article is we all tend to focus in the past.
Right.
Okay, we tend to rehearse, ruminate on what has happened in the past. As long as that's positive and constructive. In other words, if I can look at my past and say, that was really stupid, I never want to do that again.
Right.
I will never, I don't ever want to put anybody through that again. As long as going through the past is productive, go ahead and do it. But what happens with most people, and it happens in couples therapy all the time, what do they fight about? What they argued about last week. Well, you said this when we first got together. You said there's nothing to do with where you are today. Okay, and it really is true. You do have to put the past behind you, unless it serves a positive function.
Right.
Okay, if it's positive, okay, but most of it isn't, and it's certainly nothing you want to argue about.
Right.
There's no point in arguing about the past.
Right. And the other side of that, of course, is being fretting about the future.
That's right.
I was talking to somebody about mindfulness the other day, and I said, you got to be in the present. And he says, well, what about, what if I have a test tomorrow or a test next week that I have to study for? If I'm only thinking about right now, but I'm not preparing. It's like, no, you're missing the point. The point is that you're being mindful of what is necessary right now. If it's necessary to study right now for a test tomorrow, then you study right now.
I had a patient, young man, who was highly anxious. Okay, he was a young adult. And I would say, okay, well, and first thing out of his mouth was, well, what if this happens? Well, what about this? Well, what if that? And he could come up with this whole list of what ifs.
Right.
Okay, all that might happen in the future that kept him stuck where he was. He was afraid to take that step because he was anticipating what might go wrong in the future.
Right. So yeah, you can't live with those minds.
That's right. So when we talk about mindfulness, we're talking about bringing you to the present.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Because there's the past is gone. Okay.
Right.
You use it for constructive reasons. Right. The present we can't predict. Okay. So
right. So whatever you have to do in the present is what you do in the present, and you're being mindful of what you're doing in the present. Even if it's something in preparation for tomorrow, that's fine.
Right.
But it's not worrying about it. It's recognizing this is what I can do about that now. I have a test tomorrow. I'm not going to worry about that test. I'm going to prepare for that test.
I have a deadline coming next week.
Right.
I think Wednesday or Thursday. So I have this deadline looming.
Wednesday.
Is it Wednesday?
The 14th.
14th. Okay, so I know the 14th is looming large for me next week. Okay, but I can't be fretting and worrying. I have to do what I need to do today.
Right.
That's all I can do.
Right.
Is what do I have to do today to get to the 14th?
Right.
And I'll do the same thing tomorrow. I'm not going to worry about tomorrow today. I'm going to just take care of today.
Right.
That's mindfulness.
Right. And the fifth thing, or the fourth thing here, is motivation.
Right.
And motivation can be driven by some of that mindfulness and some of that self-awareness and everything else.
Right. And we know that we said earlier in the week that emotions create motivation.
Right.
Okay. Our emotions drive us, move us forward. But we have to help it along.
Right.
It's like, yeah, God's going to take care of you, but you got to help out.
Yeah.
You have to do a little work too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can't sit on your sofa and just hope that something happens. So to increase motivation, you can set goals. That's one of the ways we increase motivation, is to set and pursue what you really want.
Right.
What comes up every time we talk about this is, well, my son's not interested in anything. He just he doesn't want to do anything. And I guess there are some individuals who really don't have, what we always say is, well, they're motivated.
Right.
They're just not motivated to do what we want them to do.
Right.
They're motivated to play video games, not do algebra homework.
Right.
Okay. But there are people who lack motivation for some reason.
Right.
But we don't know why.
Right. Well, we're working on, we've been talking about it lately, so we're working on a podcast idea to kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, motivation is really a complicated topic.
Yeah,
okay?
absolutely.
We know it's tied to emotions.
Right.
And so, once again, you have to work at it.
Yeah.
If you don't feel motivated, well, then you have to set some goal.
Right.
Maybe it's getting out of bed.
Right.
Maybe it's making your bed. Maybe it's, you have to set some goals and start pursuing them.
Right.
You have to help yourself.
Right.
Right.
Number five.
Empathy.
Right. All right. Empathy is sort of placing another person, placing yourself in somebody else's shoes.
That's right. The ability to do that.
Right. And so that's going to help with your emotional intelligence, because the better you are with empathy, the more that you really understand emotions and understand how somebody else might feel and understand how you feel and the similarities and differences between those two.
My daughter is trying to make a decision about where to go to college. Okay. And it's very clear, it became very clear to us recently what she wants to do. What we want her to do might be different from that.
Right.
But this is what, and I said to my wife, yes, as recently as yesterday, I said, no, she's made it very clear what she, and we have to see this from her point of view.
Right.
She's making this decision for her own very good reasons. We don't even know what all of those are.
Right.
Okay. But we have to see this from her perspective.
Right.
We're looking at it from our perspective saying, well, this is a better program, or this is a better coach. We have to look at it from her perspective, and it helps us keep our emotions in check.
Right. And that leads right into number 6, which is relationships.
Right.
The stronger, the richer, the more intimate your relationships are with others, the more the stronger your empathy is going to be. In some ways, the more motivated you're going to be.
Right.
You know, so all of these things sort of build on each other. But when we have good, healthy, rich relationships, then we're able to build our emotional intelligence. And again, we've talked about this in a number of podcasts over the past number of weeks, many weeks.
Right.
Is that, you know, when we have healthy relationships, our mental health improves, our emotional intelligence improves, everything about our lives improves, because we are not just emotional creatures, but we're social creatures.
You know, we've been doing the podcast on that Netflix series, 13 Reasons Why, and a recurring theme in there is her loneliness, her lack of connection to other people.
Right.
And so if you want to be happy, you need to connect to other people.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, lonely people,
they tend to have more mental health concerns.
Right. People who get out and have friends and healthy relationships seem to do better. You and I have a tendency to work probably more hours every week than we should.
Right.
Okay. And there's a tendency for workaholics to live a more isolated existence. The danger in that is you can also encounter depression, anxiety. You know, you begin to disconnect from even your own family.
Right.
You stay connected through soccer. Okay, that's your connection to the world, because you have parents and coaches and players and all these different people. So you maintain relationships that way.
Right.
Okay, take that out of your life. You'd probably be here all the time, and eventually you're going to start to lose those connections. So it's really important to maintain some relationships. Not electronic relationships, real face-to-face human contact relationships, to maintain emotional health. And this is what they mean about emotional health is mental health. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we have these 6 things: self-awareness, self-regulation, mindfulness, motivation, empathy, and relationships. Those are our 6 things that help build emotional intelligence, and in the process helps deal with mental health issues and concerns and issues. So,
Govinder, thank you for an insightful article. Gives us a lot to think about, and we'll be talking about these things in the future.
And we'd like to think. So, all right, that's it for today. So until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, and forget to be afraid.